Chapter 15, What Remains Uncontained. Mike moved carefully, the tranquilizer rifle heavy in his hands. It wasn't the weight that bothered him, it was the responsibility. A tranquilizer gun wasn't a weapon, not really. It didn't stop the danger, it delayed it. It made mistakes slower, messier, and sometimes crueler. He'd already fired 6 darts. A zebra is in full panic near the eastern fence. A warthog that had smashed through a maintenance gate and wouldn't stop charging shadows. A sedated leopard breathing hard behind a toppled concession stand, its chest rising and falling like a bellows. Each shot costs time. Each dart had to be logged later, explained, and justified if there was a later. Mike hadn't heard from anyone in over 20 minutes. No radio, no dispatch. No confirmation that anyone else was even still coordinating this disaster. Just him, the dark, and animals that did not belong where they were. He stepped into the corridor outside the reptile service wing and stopped. Something was wrong. Not noise, there was plenty of that everywhere else. Sirens in the distance, the far-off echo of animals calling out of stress. Structural alarms were wailing where systems hadn't fully failed yet. Here there was nothing, just silence. Mike raised the rifle slightly and moved forward. That's when he saw the body. Bryce lay on his back near the storage room entrance, one arm bent at an unnatural angle, his face pale under the emergency lighting. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring past the ceiling, past everything. Mike swore under his breath and hurried over, kneeling despite himself. He already knew. You learn to recognize death quickly in this job, not dramatic death, not cinematic death, but the quiet, final kind. A puff adder lay a few feet away, coiled lazily now, its thick body half-shadowed against the wall. It wasn't aggressive anymore. It didn't need to be, it took out its threat. Mike sighed long and tiredly. Damn rich kids, he muttered, not unkindly. Bryce's clothes were expensive, still clean mostly, shoes that had never touched dirt before tonight. A phone lay cracked beside his hand, screen dark. Mike felt the familiar knot of anger tighten in his chest, not at Bryce specifically, but at the situation. At shortcuts taken, at policies bent, people who assumed systems would always protect them. This was going to be a nightmare to clean up. He stood slowly, keeping his eyes on the snake, and fired a dart. The puff adder recoiled, struck instinctively at nothing, then stilled as the sedative began to work its way through its body. "Sorry, buddy," Mike said quietly. "You didn't do anything wrong." He turned back to Bryce and closed the boy's eyes. There would be reports, investigations, lawsuits, names on paper that would never fully explain what happened here tonight. Mike adjusted his grip on the rifle and kept moving. The hallway opened into a larger service room, and that's when he froze again. An elephant bull stood there, not charging, not agitated, just there. The massive animal filled the space almost entirely, its broad head brushing exposed ductwork, its trunk swinging slowly as it explored the air. One ear flapped lazily, stirring dust. Mike stared. The elephant stared back. For a long moment, neither of them moved. "Well," Mike said finally, voice low and calm, "You're big." The elephant exhaled, a deep rumble that vibrated through the floor. It took a step, careful despite its size, placing its foot with surprising delicacy. Mike didn't raise the rifle. There was no dart on earth strong enough to stop that animal safely in this condition, and even if there were, this wasn't the moment. "How the hell are we supposed to get you back?" he murmured. The elephant's eye, dark, intelligent, unreadable, watched him without fear. This wasn't a rampaging beast. This was a displaced animal, confused and stressed, but not hostile. Mike backed away slowly, giving it space. The elephant turned its head, uninterested now, and began to move down the corridor, following instinct, light, air, anything but confinement. Mike let it go. One more thing for the list. His chest tightened as he checked his watch. Too much time had passed. Whatever coordination had existed earlier had collapsed completely by now. "I need a phone," he thought, "any phone." He moved toward the outer service routes, his boots crunching over debris, senses stretched thin. That's when he saw movement ahead, human movement. Claire and the kid. They were emerging near the outer access road, moving fast and staying low. Claire had one arm around Liam, her posture screaming exhaustion and determination in equal measure. Mike's first instinct was to shout, to call out, to tell them they weren't alone, that someone was still trying to keep this from getting worse. Then he saw it. Movement in the shadows near them, not close, yet, but close enough. A shape shifting where it shouldn't, silent and predatory in the half-light. Mike felt his stomach drop. If he yelled, it would turn. If he were to fire on the animal, he would bolt or charge. Either way, Claire and Liam would be in its path. Mike stayed still. He watched Claire usher Liam forward, shielding him with her body, her head turning constantly, scanning like someone who knew exactly how bad things could get. She was doing everything right. The animal shifted again, then moved away, distracted by something else, sound, scent, chaos. Only when they were gone did Mike breathe again. He stepped back into the shadows, his heart pounding, the rifle steady but unused. "Get home," he whispered, though they couldn't hear him. "Please." He turned and headed in the opposite direction. There was still work to do. Animals to contain. Paths are clear. Damage to the limit, even if it was already far beyond repair. Somewhere out there, people were screaming into dead radios. Somewhere else, animals were wandering into places they would never understand. And Mike, tired, bruised, and very much still standing, kept moving through the dark, knowing one thing for certain: this wasn't over. Not even close.